come here to chew bubble gum and kick ass. And I'm all out of bubble.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to the Bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon. It is Thursday. It is October 5th, the year of our Lord 2017. Welcome to the saloon. Belly up to the bar, we've kept you a seat, and it's great to see you back. Tashay is going to be a bartendress tonight. She pours with the best of them, and the lava lamp is in fact lighted to my left, your right, if you happen to be watching on YouTube. Oh, that's right. If you go to the SHR Media channel on YouTube, you can watch us live. Oh, but wait, there's more. There's always more. You can also watch us on Facebook Live. Go to the SHR Media Facebook page, and you can watch us live there too. Or you could do probably what you're doing right now, which is listening on shrmedia.com. Oh, there's so many bounteous ways in which you can enjoy this and any other show on the SHR Media Network. Right? Hey, guess what? We don't water our drinks just like we don't water our conversation, politics, religion, crime, culture, economics, race, sex, science, law. We talk about it all here at the saloon. Nothing is sacred. The speech is free, but the booze, not so much. All we ask is that you flush the toilet, jiggle the handle, and don't forget to tip your waitress. Number one, thanks, many thanks, a myriad of thanks to last night's special guest on Sackheads Radio, and that was Dan Butcher, who spent the entire 2 hours with us in the Sackheads Radio show with just Sackheads BZ. So basically it was just two guys sitting down, tossing down the Pepsi, the Diet Pepsi, and another guy was pacing the hell out of his house. Because that's exactly what I do, Dan. I think I wrote that in chat. I do that too. When I call into another show, damn me, I can't sit down. And especially when I get going on a particular topic, I'll start out in the office and I'll kind of sit there in front of the computer and I'll look at various stories and whatnot. And then if I happen to get really rollicking and the interchange back and forth between the host and myself is really nipping on, then yeah, I get up and I'll walk down the hallway. And then I'll walk through the kitchen. I'll make a U-turn at the garage, open up the garage door, maybe go to the garage, maybe go outside, maybe go through the sliding glass door, back in, through the bathroom, through the other bedroom, back into the office and see what's happening on the computer. Yep. Hey, in chat, thank you. And hello to Jersey Joe. Hello to, hey, Dan Butcher, HP Pundit, the High Plains Pundit. Hello to Dave Milner, and count 'em, one viewer that we have right now. I have to tell you one thing. Sackhead Sean, Jesus, maybe I shouldn't say this. Yes, I'm going to say it. What the hell? Sackhead Sean and I basically conversed, typed, texted, and called back and forth all day today because there was just so much crap going on with regard to the shooter in Las Vegas. And we came to some conclusions which indicated that, yeah, there's no conclusion we can make just yet. But hang on to me. Hang on, right? Because I've got a plot. I've got a plan. We're going to start at the start, and we're going to run basically on through. But before we do that, let's try to get things maybe a little bit happy. When I found this particular audio cut, and this goes back to, we're going to veer away just for a little bit. There's so much negativity regarding the NFL, regarding the disregard of the national anthem, regarding the disregard of the American flag. And it unfortunately seems these days to kind of point back to athletics. And I found a cut where a coach says essentially to his young team of men, what I wish all the coaches would be saying to the rest of their teams. Now, this is a young basketball team. These are not adults. But already you can see, if you look at the video, they get the concept. So let's start out with something what I consider to be positive first, and do this.
It's time for happy stories and good times.
And here's what we need to listen to. The men's basketball team on Veterans Day. And they're giving recognition to the veterans who are coming out. This appears to be at some sort of a military school. They're setting up chairs. All these veterans are coming out and sitting in the chairs.
Didn't earn those chairs. Your talent didn't earn those chairs. How tall you are, how fast you run, how well you shoot, didn't earn those chairs. Me draw up a play, me recruit real hard, me work real hard, I didn't earn the chair. These guys, when they were your age, interrupted their life. They paused their education. They changed their career. And they gave their life for those chairs. Do you guys understand what I'm saying? Not us. Not us. And so when the anthem is played, we're going to stand like grown men, and we're going to honor men like this that gave their life so we could have a chair to sit in. And in the 2.5 minutes that the song is played and somebody sings it, or the music is played, we're going to stand at attention and honor of these men. And we're not going to sway back and forth. We're not messing with our short. We're not messing with our jersey. Those 2.5 minutes we're going to give to the people that earn these chairs. Because that freedom allows us to do what we're doing. I don't care if you sing, but I want you to know the words. And I want you to be respectful of the words, because those words represent people's lives. And when we stand, we're going to put our right hand over our heart and our left hand behind our back. And we're not moving. And we're not looking down, and we're not swaying. We're standing still with perfect body language. And all that we're thinking about is these men who earned the right for these chairs to be here.
Can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and
So they're standing.
stars through the perilous fight
Right with the veterans. Some of the veterans are crying. And that's how you start. And that's how you should start any sports in the United States of America. respectfully, just absolutely unlike the NFL. At last count, I could be wrong. 52 dead, 527 injured. You know, if Stephen Craig Paddock wanted to make a name for himself, he certainly accomplished that goal. He's now America's most deadly mass murderer. He's topping that Muslim shooter at the Orlando gay nightclub in 2016, who killed 49 persons and wounded 58 in the name of Allah. So killing 52 people, I think now it may be up to 57, and at last count having injured at least 527. Paddock still, after all this time, today's Thursday, this occurred on Sunday. Paddock is an enigma. He's a tempest that no one appeared to really see brewing. He cannot be consulted, obviously, because he killed himself just prior to police breaching the suite. The coward's way out, emphasizing that there is no defense against a firearm, save that of other firearms. So he decided late Sunday night, about 10 o'clock, that was October 1st, break out 2 windows in his pretty large 32nd floor suite at the Mandalay Bay Resort and Casino and fire hundreds of rounds. At last count, I believe, they thought was about 22,000 people, attendees of the Route 91 Harvest Country Music Festival below him. And the shooting went on for about 10 to 11 minutes, people estimate. He had 23 firearms in his room and I think 19 more at one of his homes in Reno. He checked into the Mandalay Bay on Thursday, September 28th, with more than 10 suitcases. He had 3 to 4 days for planning just in the suite itself. All right? He clearly planned, as far as I'm concerned, to target that specific concert from the Mandalay as it had the distinct advantage of superior elevation and the least occluded field of fire, and offering at the same time a distance that would initially be confusing to a lot of people. People, if you look at an aerial view of this, for example, people would have expected that perhaps the Luxor, which looks like a pyramid, which is actually it's a little bit closer to that venue, that it would be the obvious sniper's perch, but it wasn't. There are some things in the way, like a big statue. So he instead, Paddock, decided he was going to choose an expansive corner suite at the Mandalay Bay because he's a whale, and my guess would be he got comped that room. So they were easy targets down below. And Paddock utilized, we're going to go into Paddock and perhaps somebody else. Hold that thought. But he utilized some of the classic, and I mean classic, positions of advantage in military combat and special force tactics when you think about it. That of elevation, speed, surprise, and violence of action. That's right out of Sun Tzu. That's right out of special operator manuals. The distance involved was, well, people are estimating that it's anywhere between 400 to 500 yards, up to about 1,500 feet. Easily reached by the weapons, the long guns, by the way, that were in the room. Military concepts that were utilized by a guy who was, for all intents and purposes, as far as I've been able to find out so far, never military trained. So there's a lot of theories about this, and they're far-reaching. And when I first heard this, I thought, wow, how far out are these conspiracists going to go? Balance this between what you knew on Sunday and what you hear now on Thursday of this week. Is there a difference?
Hey guys, I'm Christopher Green. You're watching AMTV Alternative Media Television. I'm going to keep this video short and sweet. I do not watch the mainstream boob tube. I do not have a connection to it. I just don't watch it. It's propaganda and it's lies. But I don't need to. I already know the storyline. I already know the narrative being pushed by the radical left. I already know how the government uses it as a control system to basically just herd all the sheep any direction they want.
Now you heard government, and by now a lot of people are going, screw it, turn it off.
Now they're losing control, thanks to people like you tuning in and thanks to what we do here at AMTV Alternative Media Television. But I'm getting reports from all my friends and family that they say the biggest story, headline news right now, the biggest story is all about taking away your guns. Getting your guns. You gotta have your guns. Yeah, that's right. The left needs your guns because after all, that's gonna solve these terrorist events. No, it won't. No, it won't.
Stop. Okay, now the left, after just listening to that portion, are thinking, oh, that's such a bunch of bullshit, it's not even funny. Guess what? If you're a particular bent and you're listening to this show live or in podcast, you happen to be in chat, one of the first things that I bet you're saying is, take away the guns, especially after what you now and the verbiage that you've heard by politicians, people in D.C., folks on the left. Well, oh no, this is not a crazy concept.
Only terrorists will have the guns, and innocent civilians will be left defenseless. This is staged, pre-planned, and engineered, not only to take your guns in this country, but to start a civil war because they want this nation divided.
Stop. A while ago, I would have thought, you're a loon. These days, after what we've been seeing, and Antifa, as a matter of fact, coming out and saying November 4th, we're going to try to... This is out in the open. November 4th, Antifa has said, we're going to attempt to start a civil war. And they told you about it.
It is how they usher in one order, one government, one world currency, and one new, brand new, big one too. Big war. Big war. Don't forget about North Korea. Don't forget about what's going on there. And an economic collapse you have never seen ever in American history. It's going to be a freaking bloodbath. Even David Stockham was on over the week and said...
He means David Stockman, who used to be a representative of the Democrats.
40 to 70% minimum. I think he's being generous. I think it'll be more like 80%. Maybe the whole thing will just go to zero overnight. Who knows? This is a cover-up. It is staged. It is pre-planned. And it is engineered. Now,
oh, it was. Definitely. Even without all that stuff he said. It was staged. It was pre-planned, and it was engineered. There had to be a great deal of thinking and planning and plotting behind what happened. You just didn't decide the day before you were going to carry out something like this.
Nancy Pelosi and everybody else and everybody on the radical left is going to use this to take your guns and feed that convenient narrative for gun control. Got to get it out of the hands of the American people. Now,
that's right. By the way, this video was made on Monday. What have you heard from Nancy Pelosi and other people in the Democrats and other persons in D.C.? The exact same thing.
But we're losing control. Yeah, that's right. As if this isn't the biggest warning sign ever. The minute they talk about coming after your guns, oh boy, you should be worried. You should be worried. I would expect that gun sales should go up. After this,
Oh, and they are. But again, this guy, is he prescient or what? No, he's not prescient. He just knows and compares what's occurred in the past to what he believes is going to occur this week because of Sunday's actions.
Quite tremendously. We know Obama was the greatest gun salesman on the planet.
True.
Things have kind of trickled down a little bit with Trump, but this should be a giant warning sign to all Americans tuning in. They want your guns, my friend. They're going to take them, okay? They want them. They are losing control of the sheep. First thing they do, before they implement even greater tyranny, and we've seen this throughout history many times before, is they take the guns. Take the guns, and there's nothing to protect your freedom of speech. There's nothing to protect you and your family. There's nothing to protect your free speech. There's nothing to protect your religion.
Ask yourself a question. Why is it that leftists, Democrats, want to remove the first two amendments in the Bill of Rights? Control. They want to remove, it's clear, and they've stated outwardly. Even the ridiculous morons that populate our universities, our kids, say that First Amendment freedom of speech, you shouldn't be able to say some things. Well, I can say whatever the hell I want. Really back it up. You're going to be able to back it up when you have absolutely no way of defending yourself, or maybe as Jersey Joe said just at the close of his show, you might have a dull butter knife.
So, hopefully...
The Second Amendment, let me emphasize this, the Second Amendment has absolutely nothing to do with hunting. It was created with one sole purpose, being able to defend yourself against an oppressive government. Hunting be damned.
You don't have mainstream media, because I don't. But if you turn it on right now, it really only plays in retirement homes and airports. It's not really anywhere else. Most Americans are tuning out. But if you do happen to watch it or take a cursory glance, you'll see that that is the headline story. Take away the guns. Take away the guns.
Yeah, certainly. Late night shows, Jimmy Kimmel, Jimmy Fallon. Jimmy Fallon just dripped all over Hillary Clinton last night or the night before. They're making all the news, and they're making no bones about it. They want to take away your Second Amendment right. Michael Moore is promoting a 28th Amendment to remove your guns. They want a new amendment.
Gun control, gun control, gun control. Gun control, gun control, gun control. They're not going to talk about the shooter's connection to the government, to the dark state. They're not going to talk about his employment with one of America's largest defense contractors, Lockheed Martin.
He worked in aerospace. That's in the public domain.
They're not going to talk about that people warned about the shooting 45 minutes in advance before it happened. Civilians on the ground. It's just going to be buried. All of it's going to be buried. Our videos are going to be censored. The truth is going to be censored. But this is what it's about, control. Control. Before the outbreak of war, before the reset button, and before even more and more tyranny, this is what they are doing.
Stop. This guy's a loon, isn't he? He's a loon.
And we as Americans should fear this tyranny. We should fear these people. They are out of control.
This guy's a loon, but you know who you should really be listening to? You should be listening to Jimmy Kimmel, because he's so centered. He's so proper thinking. I mean, he should do the thinking for everyone. Just ask any leftists. He's a comedian, and he's making decisions for the Democrats. Are you kidding? No, I'm not kidding.
They are evil in the dark corners of Washington, D.C. and on Wall Street. You even notice that? The Dow Jones Industrial Average rallied today. They thought it was good news, this shooting. What a joke.
I wouldn't necessarily say that, but let me tell you, if you don't have your investments taken care of, this is a bubble.
What a joke. Well, it is good news for them. It's good news for the deep, dark state. This is what we're dealing with, and I just heard a message on the radio here talking about, our condolences to the victims and all this stuff. At the same time, they push gun control and initiate, incite, promote, and catalyze. This is the left. This is the mainstream media.
Stop. The shooting occurred 10 p.m. Sunday night. Monday morning, earliest Monday morning, we already had leftists getting on the media talking absolutely nothing about the victims. Fuck them. They're dead. They can't vote anymore, so what good are they, right? Hey, they're just fodder. They're just fodder. Doesn't matter. 520, almost 60, almost 600 victims of this, and you don't matter to the Democrats anymore. You didn't matter to them anyway, because if you're going to a country concert, obviously you're a Trump voter, and we don't like you in any event.
This is CNN. They catalyze a civil war in this country.
And what did all the leftists say from like 7 a.m. Monday morning on? Guns. We must do something about the guns. Background checks, laws, more laws, laws upon laws, laws that would have had pretty much absolutely zero effect on this and pretty much every other mass shooting in the United States in the past 5 to 10 years. No effect. Okay, so you got to ask yourself, is this guy even remotely correct? I think you know where I stand on that. Okay, so this guy Paddock, he didn't have a military record, right? What do we know about him? He had no criminal arrest record. I think he had a ticket. He wasn't a member of a... Oh, this is so sad. Trust me, when the leftists, they're blubbering about this. He was not a member of a militia. He wasn't a member of a hate group. Almost any other group. He was a loner. His social media was negligible. So this 64-year-old dude is a resident of a little teeny-weeny town called Mesquite, Nevada, living in a retirement community. He's a gambler. He would take junkets to Las Vegas. He was a whale. He would spend big, lose big, and win big. That's why that massive suite was comped to him. He'd been there numerous times, and they all knew him. He was a multimillionaire. He had property and profited from real estate and investments. He didn't have close ties to his family. He was twice divorced. His live-in girlfriend was not home when the event occurred. He sent her away. That was purposeful as far as I can tell. He had no mental illness history. Well, damn him. Well, apparently we discovered more recently that he was on Valium. Yeah. How many people in the United States happen to be on Valium right now? He was a retiree, like I said, an aerospace industry engineer. He was a former accountant. Eric Paddock, the brother, said. He was just a guy. He lives in Mesquite. He went to the hotels, he gambled, he went to shows. Also very interesting. This was said early now by a former BSU, that's the FBI BSU, Behavioral Sciences Unit, the Mind Hunters, so to speak. This guy named Cliff Van Zandt. And he said this is a quote from him. My challenge is, I don't see any of the classic indicators so far that would suggest, okay, he's on the road either to suicide or homicide or both. This is an interesting note, and I think I'm going to wrap up the first segment with this because I got about a minute left. While Stephen Paddock appeared to have no criminal history, his father was a notorious bank robber. Eric Paddock said, that's the brother. Benjamin Hoskins Paddock tried to run down an FBI agent with his car in Las Vegas in 1960. Is there a connection? Who the hell knows? His father wound up on the agency's most wanted list after escaping from a federal prison in Texas in 1968. And that was when Stephen Paddock was a teen. The oldest of 4 children, Paddock was 7 when his father was arrested for the robberies. I have so many other places to go. So many other places to go. Folks, hang on. We're going to go to a commercial break, and if, like I say, Sackhead Sean and I have been talking and texting all day, and if he's sufficiently sober, which he may or may not be, he's promised to perhaps, or perhaps not, call in. Come right back.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Hey, it's Sean from the Sackheads Radio Show. Also one of the owners here at the SHR Media Network. Are you opinionated? Have you ever wanted to do your own show? Have you ever heard somebody like the Sackheads and go, yeah, I could probably do that better? Well, now's your chance. Send me a 5-minute clip at sackheadsradio@gmail.com, and maybe you can be part of the SHR broadcasting team. sackheadsradio@gmail.com.
Beware, the Jersey Takeover is here. Every Monday through Friday, 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, you can catch River Common Sense Show hosted by Jersey Joe, right here on shrmedia.com. Only Jersey can deliver hell like no one else. So consider this your fair warning.
Human by race, Christian by faith, American by nationality, and conservative by choice. Reverend Ralph J. Chittum Sr. is the right guy on SHR Media from 8:05 to 9 p.m. Monday through Friday. And if on the rare occasion I am ever wrong, I will still always be right. The right guy on SHR Media.
Power brokers use corrupt politicians, deceptive Islam, and lies from establishment media to turn the once shining city on a hill into the city of the blind. What do the elites fear? One man with a cane. I'm Dave Milner. Join me at SHR Media, High Plains Talk Radio, Spreaker, iTunes, and YouTube for a different kind of commentary on the unpleasant blind guy. Because truth is not always pleasant.
Hello, I'm Tim Hart. I'm the guy BZ hires, due to his shameless contract with the SHR Media Network, to voice his promos. He'd like me to tell you that the Bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show can be found on SHR Media Network, Spreaker, and YouTube every Tuesday and Thursday night at 11 p.m. Eastern and 8 p.m. Pacific, featuring right thinking from a left brain and doing the job the American media maggots won't. You'll find that the speech is free, but the drinks are not. There, in the saloon, just when safety pin manufacturers are running out of metal for the diapers of the leftists, BZ is sending his personal drones of freedom into the wheelhouses and ossicles of lovers of sovereignty and liberty nationally and globally. Broadcasting behind enemy lines in occupied California, BZ swears that no rights were harmed in the making of this promo.
This is Jersey Joe, host of the Reverb Common Sense, and you're listening to SHRmedia.com.
And you are listening to the Thursday night edition of the Bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon. It's Thursday, October 5th, the year of our Lord 2017. I was talking about the shooting, of course, in Las Vegas. And like we already knew, all the crap started on Monday. All the political stuff started. Hillary Clinton tweeted out, this is one of the first tweets that she sent as a result of this shooting. The crowd fled at the sound of gunshots. Imagine the deaths if the shooter had a silencer, which the NRA wants to make easier to get. And our grief isn't enough. We can and must put politics aside, stand up to the NRA, and work together to try to stop this from happening again. Leftists are, in fact, dumb shits, because in this instance, when you deal with guns, they don't want to know the truth. They don't want to know the facts. Do silencers completely stop the sound of weapons? No, they don't. What's the primary purpose of a silencer? In some occasions, depending upon the feet per second of the bullet launched, you try to keep the round subsonic. That lessens the noise, but it doesn't eliminate it. What it does is it keeps the operator's it keeps the operator from going deaf. You stupid, ignorant bint. Oh, speaking of ignorant bints, here's a great tweet from Haley Geftman Gold at CBS, VP, senior attorney. I'm actually not even sympathetic because country music fans often are Republican gun toters. Great tweet. Haley, thanks. Way to go. Here's another tweet. Shooting at Country Music Festival in Las Vegas looks like revenge on those Trump supporters. And then a lot of little happy faces. Here's another one. Dude slayed, kill, 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 especially the white man. Perfect. Those are great tweets, aren't they? Of course they are. Just ask people on the lefts.
People like Bernie Sanders, people like Hillary Clinton are actually trying to profit politically from atrocity, from tragedy. The bodies are still warm and people are exploiting this for their own partisan gain.
That's what is so completely reprehensible about this.
It is worse than disgusting. It is the swamp at its very, very worst. And it's fundamentally un-American, Sean. We need to come together. This is when people in Nevada are being asked to donate their blood now. It's not about politics. It's about helping our fellow Americans. And that some politicians don't get that, it's reprehensible.
And they don't. They don't get it. But thankfully, I have a perfect example. This drew out all the leftists. And I've told you before, there are two things that I absolutely appreciate when people speak to me and I address others. It's honesty and clarity. For once, we're finally starting to get honesty, just a bit of honesty from leftists. Here's an article from the New Republic. The headline goes like this: "It's time to ban guns. Yes, all of them." Oh my God. Finally, we're getting a little bit of honesty and clarity. This is what they want. This is what leftists are going to be demanding. And they're rallying around this right now. The article goes like this: ban guns. All guns. Get rid of guns in homes and on the streets, and as much as possible, on police. You heard it here first. Not just because of San Bernardino or whichever mass shooting may pop up next, but also not because of those. Don't sort the population to those who might do something evil or foolish or self-destructive with a gun, and those who surely will not, as if this could be known, as if it could be assessed without massively violating civil liberties and stigmatizing the mentally ill. Ban guns? Not just gun violence, not just certain guns, not just already technically illegal guns. All of them. All of them. You know, that's rather succinct. What do they want? More laws. When do they want them? Now. When do they want done with the guns? Banned, confiscated, removed, right now. Targeted at whom? Oh, that's right, law-abiding citizens, because, by definition, criminals don't obey laws, the last I checked. And trust me, make absolutely no mistake, not at all. Gun confiscation and removal is precisely what leftists and Democrats want as the end goal. Here's this guy named Kumali Najani sent out a tweet, and then Ben Shapiro responded. But the first guy said, in Marseille, a man with a knife killed 2 people. In Las Vegas, a man with a gun killed 58. You don't even have to do the math. Ben Shapiro responds specifically to that tweet. In Nice, a man with a truck killed 86. You should do more math. Facts be damned. Emotions are everything. Here's another way high-powered leftist thinker. A guy named Tom Bloke, which I doubt is his true name because no one would name themselves that. This is how, trust me, oh my God, this is how leftists think. Quote, you can't use guns to defend yourself against guns. It just doesn't work in practice. Are you fucking kidding me? No, I'm not. Let me read it again. You can't use guns to defend yourself against guns. It just doesn't work in practice. But funny thing is, there was, on my blog even, there's this, Stephen Paddock's voter registration. And the little registration form says this: party affiliation, Democratic Party, registered to vote in Palm Beach County, Florida, registration date 4/11/84, voter status active. Yeah. There's a lot more to this story. And then, like I said, the loons, they started weighing in. And look, I hear the sound of one now. Don't you? I think I do.
Profile, it is still. Ruben Navarrete joins us right now. Ruben, thanks for coming on.
Hey, Tucker, longtime friend, first-time guest.
So you're for profiling now? What
Yes.
changed your mind? I thought you were against racial profile. I thought it was racist, but now it's not.
Ruben Navarrete writes, I think he writes at the New York Times, and he's speaking to Tucker Carlson, and his premise is, it's time to start profiling white men. No one else. Profiling white men.
Not?
Well, there's 2 sides to that coin, right? The same folks who think it's okay to profile African-American motorists on a freeway or Muslim Americans at an airport or Mexicans on the border, they say, well, look at the numbers. Likewise, when you're talking about serial killers and mass murders, it's inescapable that most of those folks are white males. It just makes sense to keep it all even.
Really? Let's do the math. Proportionately speaking, there are more white males in the United States than there are, say, blacks, Hispanics, etc. Funny thing is, the one fact that escapes Ruben Navarrete that he doesn't want to tell you is that proportionally speaking, it's all even. It's all even. Try doing some facts, but Ruben's not going to tell you that. And Tucker doesn't have this fact at his fingertips. I'm surprised about that.
Okay, so you're...
By the way, if you doubt any of this stuff that I'm saying, perhaps you ought to start listening more to Larry Elder on the Salem Radio Network, a true libertarian.
Just for the record, you're for racial profiling now. So the next time some big city police department says we're profiling people outside a mosque, you're going to say,
yeah,
good job.
Fine.
You got to finish the quote in the column you read, the column that I just wrote this afternoon.
What do I say? What have I always said? What will I continue to say? No one is equal until everyone is equal.
It's about not all white males. You said I want to profile all white males. No, I want to profile white males who buy an unusually large number of high-impact, powerful weapons and ammunition.
Define large number.
If you do that, you add that behavior to that characteristic. Yeah, I think those are good people to keep an eye on, keep a list of, and keep track of.
So do you think there's something about, I mean, I guess what I found so striking about your column.
Stop. By the way, did you know, folks, that already exists? Anytime you fill out that form and send it to the BATFE for a background check, that goes into the records. The BATFE computers know who bought what and where at one time, and if you think they don't keep those numbers and those stats, you'd be sorely mistaken.
Was the racial angle. I don't think most people looked, I didn't. I don't look at most shootings through the lens of race, and I didn't look at this one. I thought it was striking that he was old. I thought it was striking he was a former IRS guy. I thought a lot of things were interesting, but his race didn't jump out at me, but obviously it was a real concern for you. Why was this a racial killing? Yeah.
Yeah. It was for me and a lot of other Latino African-American friends I talked to. They likewise sort of hold their breath whenever they hear about an incident like this, and they say, oh, geez, I hope this wasn't one of ours. I actually heard somebody who was a Christian fundamentalist say that he does the same thing. He always hopes that it's not one of his constituency, his community. So in terms of Latinos and African-Americans, they are afraid, increasingly afraid of white men with 42 guns in their arsenal. Who walk around with a grievance oftentimes as if somehow the world has done them wrong and they would have gotten into a better college if a minority hadn't taken their spot and all the like. So
I wonder if you think, by the way,
working class folks.
Racist information, racist. Tucker, you're talking to a racist who finds this, isn't this odd, that he finds this the perfect time to write that article? Because people are going to listen to it. People on the left are going to listen to it.
Folks who talk about
and they're going to read it.
Trade deals who put them out of work. There's one grievance after another with this bunch.
Yeah, this bunch. I wonder if, but we've.
There you go. Thank you, Tucker. This bunch.
Got a driver's license photograph, by the way, of the shooter on the screen. I don't know if you can see it, but our viewers may be wondering what that is. I wonder if when you go home and replay this tape and you hear yourself making generalizations about an entire racial group, if you'll think, wow, I've become a racist. I wonder if you'll come to that realization.
No.
I've been called every name in the book, Tucker, by the right, left, you know.
That's a sincere question, though. Don't blow it off. You just said about an entire racial group, they do this, they're this way, they have these attitudes. And that's, of course, the textbook definition of racism. So I wonder if you know that. Yeah.
Here's the thing, and don't be condescending to me because it reminds me of white liberals. You and I both find white liberals to be really annoying. Okay, so don't say, I wonder if you know that. I've been called a racist just last week when I took a stand against African-American athletes kneeling during the national anthem.
Don't dodge the question and get into this. I'm offending both sides. No, I'm being very specific. I'm saying when you...
And Tucker Carlson is always very specific.
Like 30 seconds ago, not last week, said of an entire group of people who share only skin color. That's all they have in common.
And behavior, the fact that they stockpile weapons and ammunition.
That white people do. So you're comfortable with making derogatory statements about a whole group of people based on their race.
Right, because there aren't weapons stockpiled in mosques across the United States. And guns are not stockpiled by various gangs. A great deal who happen to be black across the United States. And guns are not held and stockpiled by Hispanics and Mexicans all across the fruited plain. That just doesn't happen. It's only males. It's only white males. It's only Caucasoids. They're the only ones who do that. Good to know.
Because I am not comfortable
with,
doing
Tucker, that's fine. Well, let me think about that again, Tucker. I watch your show, and you often do that on this show, in fact. If
give me one example. Give me one example where I've made any generalization about a group on the basis of their race. One time.
I think I'll give you one example. In the future, and you did this just last week, when you talk about immigration, You should not rely on people from FAIR or CIS, the Center for Immigration Studies, groups that 20 years ago, Tucker, when I first met you,
I said, give me an example.
You would criticize when you wrote for the Weekly Standard.
Stop. Give me an example of me deriding an entire group of people on the basis of their race, and you can't because I don't believe in that, and I believe in that, and you just did, and I'm wondering when that became okay. When did that become okay to do that in public?
Let's be clear about this. Let's be clear about this for the third.
Okay, let's be clear about this for the third time, he says, completely avoiding Tucker Carlson's questions because the people that respond to him avoid Tucker Carlson's questions.
Third and fourth time. It's not just the racial characteristic. It says in the column, if you're a white male who stockpiles ammunition and high-powered weapons, the government should keep track of you.
You just said white men have these attitudes and they run around and they're mad because their kids didn't get into college.
Yes.
It's like, it's not okay.
He says yes. He agrees.
Perhaps, Tucker, it has something to do with the shows they watch at night and the sense this grievance mentality.
It has to do with the shows they watch at night. What's the inference in that? Oh, that's right. Only angry white males watch Fox News. Tucker Carlson. That's what he meant.
It's grotesque that you can say something.
Really thinking people should be watching CNN, shouldn't they?
That's the textbook definition of racism, and then accuse me of it.
CNN, the textbook definition of fake news.
For calling you out.
So, Tucker,
it's like this cool little trick you figured out.
Here's the thing. It doesn't really bother me if somebody calls me a racist. They do it on the right, left, and center all the time.
No, but
I only care that I make them think.
No, but I'm hoping to make you think about what you just said. I'm not saying that you are a racist. I'm saying what you just said
how do you get by
is
if the FBI is saying, Tucker, if the FBI is saying that the vast majority of serial killers and mass murderers are white males, how do you get away with not profiling them? How did they become so special?
And if you look at that statistic in a vacuum, which is the only way that leftists think, that's exactly what you're going to think and say. This guy is trotting out nothing more than the standard bullshit that's gone on for years.
Somehow the rules that apply to other people being profiled
doesn't apply to them. Your words are dripping with hostility. You make me nervous because I know that you're basically a reasonable guy, but you're dripping with race hatred all of a sudden, and it makes me worry about where this country is going.
And he takes advantage, just like all the rest of the politicians, of a particular incident. It's time. What did, oh God, what is that fucktard's name that was in, Rahm Emanuel said something similar to, never let a good crisis go to waste. Well, here's a good crisis, and leftists and Democrats are certainly making the best of that, are they not?
It really does. I mean that, Ruben. Thanks for coming on tonight. Up next, Britt Hume will join us with his take.
Oh, but wait. If you thought that was really silly and stupid, you haven't heard silly and stupid. Yeah. When you look up silly and stupid in the dictionary, here's the guy, here's the face you see, along with the name, right?
I'm Keith Olbermann, and this is The Resistance. Warmest condolences and sympathies will not suffice. We need leadership in this country which will prevent, whatever their motive, the terrorists in this country from buying guns in this country and killing crowds of people.
Terrorists in this country. What's the definition of terror, Keith Olbermann? No one knows. I'll tell you. It's someone who conducts an act of violence against a civilian population with a tactic, a propaganda or populist goal in mind. That's the definition of terrorism. Where's this guy's social goal in mind? Where is it? Revolutionary goal in mind, this shooter. Where is it? So you cannot yet call that guy a terrorist. And you sure as shit can't call the rest of the people in the United States who purchase weapons terrorists.
In this country. Instead, the House of Representatives is to vote this week to relax restrictions on buying silencers for firearms, so it becomes more difficult to hear where the gunfire is coming from. Instead, we have Las Vegas, and per the website, the Gun Violence Archive, we have the 272nd mass shooting of 4 or more people in this country this year. The 272nd on the 274th day of the year.
Keith, you're not telling us all the information. How many of those mass killings are committed by blacks, quote, minorities, unquote, in urban cities? Keith?
Instead, we have warmest condolences and sympathies. And we have the Second Amendment, which was designed to keep the federal government from taking away the right of each state to maintain its own militia, but which has now been transformed into an excuse for why madmen of whatever heritage or political purpose cannot be stopped from carrying at least 10 long rifles into a hotel room in Las Vegas and setting up a sniper's nest and killing people, and why a group that enables such massacres, the National Rifle Association,
here it comes,
is not branded for what it is, a terrorist organization.
The NRA is a terrorist organization. Again, at least one thing that I can value about Keith Olbermann is at least he's honest. He tells you what he's thinking, as opposed to other leftists and Democrats who would just as soon smile at you as a big knife is coming and it's aimed right between your shoulder blades. Now, Keith Olbermann is a loon, but at least he's being honest. He's telling you what he
thinks. The gun
thinks.
lobby's interpretation of the Second Amendment, wrote Richard Nixon's conservative Chief Justice of the United States, Warren Burger, is one of the greatest pieces of fraud, I repeat the word fraud, on the American people by special interest groups that I have ever seen in my lifetime. The real purpose of the Second Amendment was to ensure that state armies, the militia, would be maintained for the defense of the state. The very language of the Second Amendment refutes any argument that it was intended to guarantee every citizen an unfettered right to any kind of weapon he or she desires.
Wrong. And by the way, that's called an opinion, and any asshole can have one.
The Second Amendment doesn't guarantee the right to have firearms at all.
Ooh, there's a really insightful reference that he makes. You know who said that? Who wrote that? Ooh, Parade Magazine, back in 1990. That Parade Magazine. Oh, they're very insightful. They know all the things about the U.S. Constitution. The Second Amendment doesn't guarantee the right to have firearms at all. Well, that's a new one to me.
There are 7,820 words in our Constitution, amendments included. The words right and rights appear only 15 times. Vote, votes, and voting appear only 37 times. The references to ownership, pay, payment, obligation, property, private property, dollars, compensation, profit, revenue, taxes, duties, words like that total 103. Our Constitution is a property document, a contract, and yet none of the words in the Second Amendment include.
It's a property document. Oh, you know what I should do? Oh my God, I really should. Okay, we didn't. Let me back up a little bit. We didn't have the underground professor, Dr. Michael Jones, on tonight because I wanted to go into this and get a lot of this crap off my chest. So my apologies to Dr. Jones. I called him and I said, I'm going to run a show. I'm going to run 2 hours of my junk tonight. And can I have you on next Thursday? He said, fine. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to get Dr. Jones on next Thursday, and I'm going to play this particular video just for him and have him take Keith Olbermann apart piece by piece, molecule by molecule.
Include any of those ownership words. A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state. The right of the people to keep and bear arms.
Stop. The right of the people to keep and bear arms. Not people, militia. They already, you fucktards don't get any of this, and you're purposely misrepresenting the Second Amendment. Yeah, they mention a well-regulated militia. That's in the first sentence, being necessary to the security of a free state. Comma. The right of the people to keep and bear arms. What does that mean to you? People. Where are people? Oh, that's right, in the United States. It didn't say militia, did it? It said the right of the people to keep and bear arms
shall not be infringed.
Shall not be infringed. Well, that's a tough one to figure out, Dr. Jones. I'm going to ask you to figure it out next Thursday.
Keep and bear, as Chief Justice Burger insisted, do not mean own.
Oh, Jesus, do you see? Words don't have any meaning anymore. Words mean nothing. To keep and bear do not mean to own. That's why I love to play these guys. That's why I love to play Keith Olbermann. Any of the other people that come on, leftists, you need to hear what it is they say, how, moreover, more important, how they think.
Period. The Second Amendment is gun control. And it is gun control from an era where the gun was a...
The Second Amendment doesn't exist to give you rights as citizens of the United States. Oh, no, no, no. Keith Olbermann insists that the Second Amendment is actually gun control. It's here to make sure that you don't have rights to guns. Only the militia. That's what he's saying.
Musket, and not an automatic killing machine that could be bought and stashed on the 32nd floor of a hotel in order to shoot people 500 at a time. The authors of the Second Amendment did not...
That's never happened in Europe, has it? If I had enough time, oh, the stats I've compiled. Oh, the places we could go.
Not address, could not conceive of such arms, such instant mechanized death, any more than they could have conceived of nuclear weapons. The Second Amendment does not give you the right to own those either.
Ooh, desperate tones, serious tones. Keith Olbermann weighing in on nuclear weapons.
It is time to end the lies about the Second Amendment. It is time to end refusing to call mass murderers who do not have obvious political motives terrorists.
Words have meaning. Terror has a definition, Keith. Terror relates to political motives. Political or social motives must be ascribed for someone or a group to be aligned with terror and terrorism. Wake up, Keith.
It is time to end the National Rifle Association.
Right. Oh, don't think that that isn't desired. Confiscation of guns, the ending of support for your Second Amendment, both hand in hand.
And it is time to end the career of any political figure who made his way to the White House dog whistling to his Second Amendment people.
Right, because that Second Amendment, well, if you're going to rip the Second Amendment out by the roots, fuck it. The First Amendment's got to go too. Because if the government is to be all-powerful, it's about control. Power and control. Money will come, but that's secondary. Power and control. Do you think I'm coming back to Keith? Well, I think the answer to that would be primarily, yep, I'm going to come back to Keith. Folks, it's the top of the hour. It's 9 o'clock on the left coast. It's midnight on the right coast. In Bolivia, it's 17:95 and 123 seconds. What a weird-ass way of telling time in Bolivia.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Hey, it's Sean from the Sackheads Radio Show. Also one of the owners here at the SHR Media Network. Are you opinionated? Have you ever wanted to do your own show? Have you ever heard somebody like the Sackheads and go, yeah, I could probably do that better? Well, now's your chance. Send me a 5-minute clip at sackheadsradio@gmail.com, and maybe you can be part of the SHR broadcasting team. sackheadsradio@gmail.com.
Times are dark. The people are misled by corrupt politicians, lied to by establishment media, and deceived by the false messages of Islam. A nation looking for direction needs a guide. It needs a man with a cane. I'm Dave Milner. Join me on Spreaker, SHR Media, Pundit Press Radio, and YouTube through the SHR Media page for a different kind of commentary on the unpleasant blind guy. Because the truth is not always pleasant.
In a world controlled by corrupt politicians,
You got a business. You didn't build that.
a team of ordinary men emerge from the ashes to give voice to the voiceless and hope to the hopeless. Sackhead Sean.
Dude,
Dude, I'm not saying Catholic is stupid, bro. Sackhead Clint.
All good friends of ours usually show up drunk.
Also starring Sacco as the producer.
I'm a little bit drunk, 'cause I'm drinking.
They are the Sackheads Radio Show. Every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Pacific on shrmedia.com.
The bloviating Zeppelin. He's big-footed enough radio shows to last a lifetime, courtesy of Sean, Clint, Ken, and Jersey Joe. Now it's time for him to waddle on his own 2 feet via the glorious SHR Media. Gird thy loins for the bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon. Coming soon to Ossicles near you. Excelsior.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, you are in fact listening to the Thursday night edition, the late night edition. The best in late night conservative talk. Yeah, it's Sackheads, but it's also BZ too. Here in the Saloon, the Berserk Bobcat Saloon. So welcome back. I think you have an idea what we're talking about. Sackhead Sean hasn't called in yet, so he must not be sufficiently soused, or he's sleeping it off already, because he's on vacay, and with all the crap that's been going on, he certainly does it. I like to listen to Keith Olbermann, and that's what we were doing before the break, because he makes such ridiculous points, but you need to hear. This is how a massive amount of leftists think. This is how they think, and this is what they think. And it's emotive, emotive, emotive.
We have had 44 past presidents. 4 have been assassinated with guns. Another was shot and wounded. So was another as he tried to regain his office. 7 more survived or just avoided significant assassination attempts, all with guns. That's 13 out of 44 presidents and guns, nearly 1/3 of them. Our American history is death by gun.
Our American history is taking over a continent. And to do it back then, you required guns for defense. That's the history of this nation. It's not the history of Europe. It's the history of this nation. And that's part and parcel of America. It's history and our freedom. We're still free. We're not Europe, and we don't answer to Brussels, although Keith would think that's a wonderful idea.
That must end. 274 days this year and 272 shootings of 4 or more people at a time.
Most by urban gang members, Keith.
No outlet of radical Islamic terrorism could hope for such a carnage, could dare to seek so many murders of so many Americans. But we don't need to do anything about it, do we? We have thoughts and prayers, and we can pretend some of the carnage is terrorism, and some of it is not.
Jesus.
And we have the President's warmest condolences and sympathies.
I think it's time for good old Keith to take a big cup of shut the fuck up. Now, I started following this guy named Terrence Williams, who I initially thought was a real leftist until I began to open the sides of my head, my ossicles, and listen to what he has to say. He is a young black man who was raised in the streets, the ghettos, the neighborhoods, and things were not always easy. But Terrence Williams is actually saying things that you've got various leftists unwilling to say? Well, let's listen.
So the mass shooting that happened in Vegas was very sad, very sick, and absolutely disgusting. It was a complete nightmare. And I would not wish that on my worst enemy. But I want to talk about gun control now. People are saying, Terrence, the government should go around and take away guns from all the American people, and that no one should be allowed to have guns. And I am here to say that that is absolutely crazy to even think of that.
Really? Oh, that's interesting. Kind of refreshing. Keep listening.
Taking away guns will not stop violence.
Uh-oh. Did Terrence Williams just use a little bit of common sense? Oh, damn him, the people. Oh, his followers. He's losing followers on Twitter by the bucketful.
What if somebody decides to go around and start smashing people's heads in with pots and pans? Are we going to ban pots and pans? What if a group of people decide to go around and start stabbing people in the neck with forks? Are we going to ban forks? Are y'all going to send the government out to take away forks from all the American people?
By the way, that already happens in Europe. Knife attacks in Europe, knife attacks in Japan, in Asian countries. Oh, hell yeah. Knives? Knife cultures? Oh, yes, bring it on. Mr. Stabby Stabberton.
People even use vehicles to commit violent acts. So are we going to ban vehicles now?
Well, just ask Sadiq Khan. He wants to ban them from London. That's a great idea, isn't it? Just ask any emotive leftist. Any emo.
Because somebody ran someone over? There will always be violence because there will always be good people and bad people in this world.
Oh, God, he's making... Damn you, Terrence. Stop making sense.
But if the government do decide to take away guns and come up with some big gun control law, who are they going to take the guns from? The people who have guns illegally are from the registered gun owners. Because the government don't even have track of all the people who have guns illegally. So they're going to take away the guns from the people who registered their guns. And that's not going to stop gun violence. Because people will always smuggle in guns, and people always will sell guns illegally, and people will always buy guns illegally. And people that are in gangs, and people that wake up mad, they will take their illegal guns and they will go shoot up random people.
No. If you're thinking like a leftist, if there's a law out there, if it's a gun-free zone, people are going to look at those signs and go, damn it, I had this great AK in the back seat of my car. I was going to open fire on my rival gang members that I see over here, but fuck me. Damn it, it's a gun-free zone.
And the people who buy guns legally will not be able to protect themselves because the government took away their guns.
There's a guy that actually used some common sense. Well, you know, folks say that right off the bat, everyone said, I don't believe in the Second Amendment. The Second Amendment can go to hell. What happened recently to Congressman Steve Scalise? Oh, that's right. He was shot by James Hodgkinson, who was a terrorist by definition because he had a political goal, and that was to kill Republicans, politically oriented. Did he shoot at his fellow Democrats? No, he didn't. He shot specifically early in the morning at a Republican baseball game, and Steve Scalise came out in dailycaller.com and said, here's the headline, Scalise says his belief in the Second Amendment is stronger than ever. Oh my God, that cannot possibly be true. House GOP whip Steve Scalise told Fox News' Martha McCallum that his belief in the Second Amendment was fortified after the shooting in Las Vegas in an interview that aired already on past Tuesday of this week. McCallum asked Scalise whether his own experience with gun violence or what he saw in Las Vegas changed his views on the Second Amendment. And he responded, I think it's fortified it. Because first of all, you've got to recognize that when there's a tragedy like this, the first thing we should be thinking about is praying for the people who are injured and doing whatever we can to help them. To help law enforcement, we shouldn't first be thinking of promoting our political agenda, Scalise replied. And of course, everybody knows that Scalise was severely injured in June when that gunman, James Hodgkinson, a terrorist by definition, opened fire on a congressional baseball practice in Arlington, Virginia. We know that for a fact. Oh, my God, I've got so many articles that I could go to. Here's one. This is from Fox News. And I made reference to this earlier Let's make this logical jump, and let's do it right now. The headline is, gun control in Europe is almost total, but it hasn't stopped mass shooting attacks like Las Vegas, has it? The answer is no.
Incident.
It hasn't.
Honestly, I probably pronounced 15 to 20 people inside. It's a very sad day.
We ran, and everybody's hiding everywhere. I mean, they're hiding under the bleachers and the stanchions and anywhere they could, and everyone's telling us to run as fast as you can.
Run as fast as you can, and we should also note that inside the Mandalay Hotel, because of the gunfire, because of the smoke, the alarms went off, Shep, and that was one of the ways that police were able to hone in on that area so quickly, Shep.
And what more do we know about the gunman himself?
I don't want to talk. I don't want to talk to Shepard Smith. I want to go to this article. Within hours of the horrible attack in Las Vegas, before we knew most of the relevant facts about the tragedy, gun control advocates were calling for more gun control. Here's something I would like those advocates to consider. Europe, which has all the gun controls that are being pushed in the aftermath of Las Vegas carnage, has actually suffered more bloodshed from these types of attacks than the U.S. Did I not tell you about that? Answer, yes, I did. Tucker Carlson, I wish you'd been armed with that fact when you were speaking to Ruben Navarrete, comma. Oh, just happens to be a racist. And you heard that right. Countries such as France may have made all semi-automatic guns illegal, but that hasn't stopped killers from getting fully automatic machine guns to use in mass shooting attacks. All 4 of the 2015 mass public shootings in France involved machine guns, including the 130 people killed in November of that year, 2015, in multiple attacks, including one at a concert venue. Fact. Leftists aren't going to tell you this. And who's responsible for a lot of this? Oh, that's right, people on the left. Listen, in the 1970s, 80s, and 90s, and I lived through these times, Europe saw machine gun attacks in airports and nightclubs by groups such as Black September and the Red Army faction. Oh, I very well remember this. Those were left-leaning groups. Most of the violence occurs on behalf of left-leaning groups. Period. End of statement. In fact, okay, machine guns are commonly used in mass shootings in the rest of the world. This has not been the case here in the U.S., factually speaking. In fact, that Sunday attack on that country music festival in Las Vegas, and I think the correct number is 58 people dead and 527 or more, 530 wounded, may be the first mass public shooting in the U.S. involving a machine gun. No guarantee, however, because you can do a check to make sure if it's an adequate machine gun, if it's an actual machine gun, or whether this guy was using a bump fire stock. Which, if you go to my Facebook page, Bloviating Zeppelin Facebook page, I have a great video in there about how a bump fire stock actually works. And what people, like myself, who know something about guns know is this. A bump fire stock is used by buffoons, or in this case, by an individual who does nothing but spray and pray. You know what that is. Folks were thinking that he was going to be up there with a bipod and a 50 caliber Barrett rifle with a wonderful scope, and that wasn't true. You can listen, and I wish I had that video. Again, go to my Facebook page, go to my Twitter account, @BZEP, and you can hear a video, by the way, that I've copied because it's already disappeared once from the internet, of an 18-minute video taken by a cab driver in the front of the Mandalay Bay Hotel, and you can hear the staccato rounds and the cyclic rate fall off, which means in those instances a bump fire stock was being used. They are not accurate. So I doubt, really, that true automatic weapons were being used, but everybody's saying that's just what it is. It's all automatic weapons. Well, there's information indicating that not quite so. According to a Wall Street Journal report, the gunman is believed to have used possibly one fully automatic weapon, and they are restricted by U.S. federal law. You cannot get automatic weapons in some states. In other states, you can. Go back. This guy complied with all the laws. They backgrounded him and they looked. And there wasn't, like I told you about the FBI profiler, who said in this particular instance, there wasn't anything that really stood out in the background of Paddock to throw up bells and klaxons and say, this guy is going to cork off real soon. And you can frequently see that. It is an attack that is likely to rank 14th. This is the Sunday attack in Las Vegas. Likely to rank 14th in the most deadly mass public shooting in the world since 1970. It's the worst ever in the United States, according to data collected by the Center for Crime Research. There were 29 such shootings, 4 or more fatalities in a public place, according to the FBI's official definition, in the U.S. during the 8 years of the Obama administration. 26 in Europe. Wait, doesn't that conflict with what Keith Olbermann said? He said there were literally hundreds of mass attacks in the United States, 4 or more people being killed just this year. Anyone besides me want to call bullshit on Keith Olbermann? If you do, raise your hand. Okay, you can see me on YouTube. You can see me on Facebook. I'm raising my hand. The rate at which people are killed is virtually the same. The rate at which people are killed is virtually the same in the European Union as the United States. Uh-oh, that's not in keeping with the leftist meme. But wait a minute, people are saying, don't we need to remove the Second Amendment? Well, they're all saying, yes, we do. Well, the European Union, and no country in the European Union has a Second Amendment. And yet the rate at which people are killed is virtually the same in the European Union, the modern, oh so modern, and accepting and coddling and loving European Union as opposed to the United States. We don't know what happened in Las Vegas. I have my definite opinions. And I really do almost wish that Sean had called in, because a drunk call from Sean would probably be funny as fuck. And fuck is pretty funny, as we all know. We're going to find out, I do believe, what motivated this gunman. And we're going to find out that it was not what we think. But perhaps the saddest fact out of all of this is that everyone calling for gun control needs to consider is, as Europe has already demonstrated and shown, you can have all the gun control laws you want, and you still won't be able to stop this from happening. You can't stop it. Evil exists. Evil people exist. I worked for 41 years in law enforcement. If there's one thing that I can tell you that's a truism, it's that. And for God's sake, none of the leftists want to tell you about this, but it happens every day. Every day. Where are the bulk of killings occurring in the United States of America? Not just an occasional mass shooting, but some mass shootings. Where are they happening? They're happening in what I call urban rat cages. These are cities that are primarily 95% controlled by Democrat bureaucrats. Oh, Chicago, Illinois, has one of the most stringent gun control sets of laws in the entire nation. That's where all the killings are occurring in the United States, primarily in loving Chicago, run by Mayor Rahm Emanuel, who has such good feelings for everyone. Here's a story that you would not anticipate. And this was written by a leftist, a female leftist. I found this at the Washington Post. Astounding. Because here's the headline. I used to think gun control was the answer. My research told me otherwise. Uh-oh, right off the bat, we've got bad things happening because here's a leftist that's going to rely on some research. The author is Leah Libresco. And the background to her says that she's a statistician, former news writer at 538, a data journalism site. She's the author of Arriving at Amen. Before I started researching gun deaths, gun control policy used to frustrate me. I wished the National Rifle Association would stop blocking common sense gun control reforms, such as banning assault weapons, restricting silencers, shrinking magazine sizes, and all the other measures that could make guns less deadly. Then my colleagues and I at 538 decided that we were going to spend 3 months analyzing all 33,000 lives ended by guns each year in the United States. And I wound up frustrated in a whole new way. We looked at what interventions might have saved those people, and the case for the policies I'd lobbied for crumbled when I examined the evidence. The best ideas left standing were narrowly tailored interventions to protect subtypes of potential victims, not broad attempts to limit the lethality of guns. Oh my gosh. I researched. Here is a leftist-leaning individual saying that they actually went out and conducted research. I researched the strictly tightened gun laws in Britain and Australia and concluded that they didn't prove much about what America's policy should be. Neither nation experienced drops in mass shootings or other gun-related crime that could be attributed to their buybacks and bans, outright bans. Oh, especially in Australia. Mass shootings were too rare in Australia for the absence after the buyback program to be clear evidence of progress. And in both Australia and Britain, the gun restrictions had an ambiguous effect on other gun-related crimes or deaths. When I looked at the other oft-praised policies, I found out that no gun owner walks into the store to buy, quote, an assault weapon. It's, oh my God, listen to this. It's an invented classification that includes any semi-automatic that has 2 or more features, such as a bayonet mount, a rocket-propelled grenade launcher mount, a folding stock, or a pistol grip. But guns are modular, and any hobbyist can easily add these features at home, just as if they were snapping together Legos. True. As for silencers, they deserve the name only in movies, where they reduce gunfire to a soft puck-puck. In real life, gosh, what did BZ say? BZ was the range master of a 2,000-plus officer department in the state of Fornicalia. Do you think I might know something about law enforcement and guns? The answer would be quickly, yes, I do. In real life, this is coming from a leftist. This is why this is so great. In real life, silencers limit hearing damage for shooters, but don't make gunfire dangerously quiet. An AR-15 with a silencer is about as loud as a jackhammer. Magazine limits were a little bit more promising, but a practiced shooter could still change magazines so fast as to make the limit meaningless. Oh my God, the clouds are parting, the rays of sun are coming down. Facts, statistics, research, actually digging into the topic. As my co-workers and I kept looking at the data, it seemed less and less clear that one broad gun control restriction could make a big difference. 2/3 of gun deaths in the United States every year are suicides. Sad, but that is true. That is a fact. Almost no proposed restriction would make it meaningfully harder for people with guns on hand to use them. I couldn't even answer my most desperate question. If I had a friend who had guns in his home and a history of suicide attempts, was there anything I could do that would help? However, the next largest set of gun deaths, 1 in 5, again, Captain Obvious, dipping in to Leah and going, ping. Yes, you are going to talk about the truth right now. The next largest set of gun deaths, 1 in 5, were young men aged 15 to 34, killed in homicides. These men were most likely to die at the hands of other young men, often related to gang loyalties or other street violence. Stating the obvious. Welcome, Captain. Seat for 1. And the last notable group of similar deaths was the 1,700 women murdered per year, usually as the result of domestic violence. Far more people were killed in these ways than in mass shooting incidents. But few of the popularly floated policies were tailored to serve them. By the time we published our project, I didn't believe in many of the interventions I had heard politicians tout. I was still anti-gun, at least from the point of view of most gun owners, and I don't want a gun in my house, as I think the risks outweigh the benefits. But I can't endorse policies whose only selling point is that gun owners hate them. Policies that often seem as if they were drafted by people who have encountered guns only as a figure in a briefing book or an image on the news. Thank you, madam. Instead, I found the most hope in more narrowly tailored interventions. Potential suicide victims, women menaced by their abusive partners, and kids swept up in street vendettas are all in danger from guns, but they each require different protections. I have a story about that coming up later. Older men. Now, didn't Ruben Navarrete want to profile older men, older white men? Well, yes, he did, on Tucker Carlson. Then she writes, older men who make up the largest share of gun suicides need better access to people who could care for them and get them help. Women endangered by specific men need to be prioritized by police who can enforce restraining orders prohibiting these men from buying and owning guns. Stop. In California, that's already true, and that's been true for many years. If we go into a domestic violence situation, we discover that there are guns in the home and the domestic violence situation is credible, we have the ability to temporarily remove, pending a court hearing, weapons from the home. That already exists. And in many, many states, that already exists. Perhaps she needs to do just a bit of research on that. Younger men at risk of violence need to be identified before they take a life or lose theirs, or to be connected to mentors who can help them de-escalate conflicts. Okay? I can't say I disagree with his caveat. This is her last paragraph. Even the most data-driven practices, such as New Orleans' plans to identify gang members for intervention based on previous arrests and weapon seizures, wind up more personal than more policies floated. The young men at risk can be identified by an algorithm, but they have to be disarmed one by one personally, not in mass as though they were all interchangeable. A reduction in gun deaths is most likely to come from finding smaller chances for victories and expanding those solutions as much as possible. We save lives by focusing on a range of tactics to protect the different kinds of potential victims and reforming potential killers, not from sweeping bans focused on the guns themselves. A leftist speaking the obvious. OMG. Folks, we're going to take another break. This is the final segment coming up. And then I'm going to tell you, you want to solve gun violence? You know what state already did that once? They're not going to do it anymore. But you know how they did it? And what state it was? OMG, I lived through it. California.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Hey, it's Sean from the Sackheads Radio Show. Also one of the owners here at the SHR Media Network. Are you opinionated? Have you ever wanted to do your own show? Have you ever heard somebody like the Sackheads and go, yeah, I could probably do that better? Well, now's your chance. Send me a 5-minute clip at sackheadsradio@gmail.com, and maybe you can be part of the SHR broadcasting team. sackheadsradio@gmail.com.
Beware, the Jersey Takeover is here. Every Monday through Friday, 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, you can catch Reaver Common Sense Show hosted by Jersey Joe, right here on shrmedia.com. Only Jersey can deliver hell like no one else. So consider this your fair warning.
Human by race, Christian by faith, American by nationality, and conservative by choice. Reverend Ralph J. Chittum Sr. is the right guy on SHR Media from 8:05 to 9 p.m. Monday through Friday. And if on the rare occasion I am ever wrong, I will still always be right. The right guy on SHR Media.
Power brokers use corrupt politicians, deceptive Islam, and lies from establishment media to turn the once shining city on a hill into the city of the blind. What do the elites fear? One man with a cane. I'm Dave Milner. Join me at SHR Media, High Plains Talk Radio, Spreaker, iTunes, and YouTube for a different kind of commentary on the unpleasant blind guy. Because truth is not always pleasant.
Hello, I'm Tim Hart. I'm the guy BZ hires due to his shameless contract with the SHR Media Network to voice his promos. He'd like me to tell you that the bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show can be found on SHR Media Network, Spreaker, and YouTube every Tuesday and Thursday night at 11 p.m. Eastern and 8 p.m. Pacific, featuring right thinking from a left brain and doing the job the American media maggots won't. You'll find that the speech is free, but the drinks are not. There, in the saloon, just when safety pin manufacturers are running out of metal for the diapers of the leftists, BZ is sending his personal drones of freedom into the wheelhouses and ossicles of lovers of sovereignty and liberty nationally and globally. Broadcasting behind enemy lines in occupied California, BZ swears that no rights were harmed in the making of this promo.
This is Jersey Joe, host of the Reaver Common Sense, and you're listening to SHRmedia.com.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, thank you for listening to the bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon here on Thursday, October the 5th, the year of our Lord 2017, and we've been talking about all sorts of things having to do with the shooting in Las Vegas, gun control, firearms, etc. I told you before the break that I would give you a very easy way to solve a lot of these shootings because I saw it myself, and that's working in concert with the federal government and local police forces on prosecuting people that use guns in crimes. Federally, Palo Alto and West Palo Alto, East Palo Alto in California was some of the deadliest places in California in the 90s. I worked robbery and homicide when the bodies were falling left and right because of gun violence. These cities were so violent, including Compton, but I can only focus on Northern California because that's where I worked. They decided that they were going to work in concert with the federal government, and people that used guns in the commission of crime were prosecuted fully. They got sentences, and they had to go to prison, and they served time. What is the biggest thing that is not occurring primarily in Chicago that people won't tell you about? Yes, there are some arrests that are being made, but people are apologizing for folks in Chicago using guns. You want to stop it? Prosecute them vigorously. Go federal on them. It was Operation Trigger Lock. Go back and look Operation Trigger Lock. That was working in concert and prosecuting these people who utilized guns in crimes, putting them away, not for 1 year, not for 6 months, not for 2 years, putting them the hell away. What did we see? Oh, that's right. You know, when you arrest people and put them in prison, crime tends to go down. But that's not the current leftist thinking in urban rat cages or on the left or by Democrats. We need to be more understanding of people that commit crimes. I quite frankly couldn't care less why you commit a crime. And when someone is shot, the first thing they think is, I wonder why this guy shot me. She must be put upon. The society must not be treating them well. Stop. Let's go back. I pulled this out of the archives because even back during Obama, here's an article from the New York Daily News. And this was written when the loving Barack Hussein Obama was president of the United States. Isn't that shocking? That was written back in 2015. What did folks have to say about murders and violence by guns during the loving regime of Barack Hussein Obama, who everyone knows he kept a lid on it? He made everything better because he sympathized with you and he said nice weasel words and everybody felt oh so better when Barack Hussein Obama was president. But this article says, in the wake of the murders in Charleston, President Obama has made more exaggerations and false claims about gun violence in America. He made two public addresses. Now, this is again back in 2015. He made two public addresses this past week, one to the nation on Thursday and one to the U.S. Conference of Mayors on Friday. On both occasions, he gave distorted impressions of how rates of violence in America compare with the rest of the world. Do you see a theme? Do you see BZ indicating that there's some sort of a running theme in this show? Oh, yeah. Those damnable facts that keep getting in the way of a good leftist meme. Emo meme. In his address to the nation, Obama claimed that we as a country will have to reckon with the fact that this type of mass violence does not happen in other advanced countries. Didn't I just say that's a line of crap? Factually, statistically. And didn't I read an article conducted and written by a leftist who said, oh my God, that's actually true? Well, it is true. He said, this type of mass violence does not happen in other advanced countries. It doesn't happen in other places with this kind of frequency. Lie. But Obama overlooks, are we going to go here? Yes, we are. Obama overlooks Norway, where Anders Behring Breivik used a gun to kill 67 people and wound 110 others. Still others were killed by bombs that Breivik detonated. Three of the 6 worst K-12 school shootings ever have occurred in Europe. Germany saw 2 of these, one in 2002 at Erfurt and another in 2009 at Winnenden. The combined death toll was 34. France and Belgium have both faced multiple terrorist attacks over the past year, that is to say in 2015. Again, facts. Do the comparison, as a lot of my professors used to say, compare and contrast. So let's do that. After adjusting for America's much larger population, we see that many European countries actually have higher death rates in mass public shootings. What the hell? Anybody bring that up? You hear anybody talk about that? Nope. That's why you listen to me here at the Saloon. That's why you read me at bloviatingzeppelin.net. That's why you come here, because I'm going to tell you the facts. I'm going to get these articles and bring them out to you, present them to you, and you suss them out on your own. You do the math. I report, you think about it. That's not a very good motto. Let's look at like mass shootings. Mass public shootings are cataloged when 4 or more people are killed. And by the way, not in the course of committing another crime. Those aren't cataloged as mass shootings. They have to be standalones, so to speak. So mass public shootings from 2009 to 2015. To make a fair comparison with American shootings, this writer said that they excluded terrorist attacks that might be better classified as struggles over sovereignty, okay? Such as the 22 people killed in the Macedonian town of Kumanovo, 1 month in 2015. Norway had the highest annual death rate, with 2 mass public shooting fatalities per million people. Macedonia had a rate of 0.038, Serbia 0.28, Slovakia 0.20, Finland 0.14, Belgium 0.14, Czech Republic 0.13. Where does the U.S. come in, BZ? The U.S. comes in 8th, behind those countries, with 0.095 mass public shooting fatalities per million people, with Austria close behind. Proportionality, taken in perspective, which is what leftists do not want. They do not want any of this taken in perspective. It all goes, they'll lie to you, they'll issue facts, because it serves their purpose. To see this isn't just a problem for the U.S. or a few small countries, Obama doesn't need to look any further than reports released by his own State Department. Between 2007 and 2011, there were an average of 6,282 terrorist attacks per year outside of Iraq, Afghanistan, and the U.S. The number of people killed, injured, or kidnapped averaged more than 27,000 per year. Now, in this particular speech that Obama made in 2015, Obama claimed once again that you don't see murder on this kind of scale with this kind of frequency in any advanced nation on earth, any other advanced nation on earth. Okay, well, among developed countries, though, the U.S. isn't anywhere close to having the highest homicide rate. The Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, the arbiter of which countries are considered industrialized, ranks Russia and Brazil far ahead of the U.S. with homicide rates that are respectively 21 to 5 times higher than ours. Our rate was tied with Chile's. Chile's. And just slightly above the average for developed countries. But wait, we're a gun culture. People are dying like flies left and right. Our Second Amendment be damned. And if we can get rid of that pesky, pissed off Second Amendment, then we can go for the gusto. We can remove your First Amendment. And then we really do have control. And the leftists are salivating. They're just waiting for that to happen. In fact, across all developed countries, more gun ownership is generally associated with lower homicide rates. Switzerland, with widespread gun ownership, enjoys one of the lowest homicide rates in Europe. It's not false that in Switzerland there needs to be a gun in every house. And people that tell you that are full of crap. It's true. Go look it up on your favorite search engine. Switzerland, with widespread gun ownership, enjoys one of the lowest homicide rates in Europe. At the other end of the spectrum, Russia and Brazil make legal gun ownership virtually impossible, yet experience very high homicide rates. Why would that be? Obama advocates expanded background checks, but background checks clearly would not have stopped either the Newtown or the Charleston killings, or in this case, past Sunday, wouldn't have stopped him either. In one case, the killer got his weapon from a relative. In the other, he appears to have passed a background check. Besides, such mass shootings are also almost always planned long in advance, giving the attacker plenty of time to figure out how to obtain a gun and where. How difficult is it to keep weapons out of the hands of would-be attackers? The terrorists who attacked in France this January in 2015 were armed with handguns, Kalashnikov rifles, M42 rocket launchers, 10 Molotov cocktails, 10 smoke grenades, a hand grenade, and 15 sticks of dynamite. So much for the laws prohibiting all of these items in France. Wait, it's a law. It's a gun-free zone. That solves everything. Just pass more laws. Right? There's a common thread. Many of these attacks occur in places where general citizens can't carry guns. According to one of his friends, the Charleston killer initially considered targeting the College of Charleston, but decided against it because it had security personnel. Isn't that amazing? This logical behavior on the part of attackers is common. It is abundantly clear from diary entries and Facebook posts that the shooters last year in Santa Barbara, California, and New Brunswick, Canada, passed on potential targets where people with guns could stop them. Who stops a person with a gun? Another person with a gun. With virtually all the mass public shootings in America and Europe taking place where general citizens can't carry guns for protection, at some point it has to become apparent even to the diehard gun control advocates that gun-free zones only protect the killers. Oh my God, I am giving you article after article after article from people on the left using statistics and facts, doing research, which is one thing that Jimmy Kimmel's not doing, one thing that Keith Olbermann isn't doing, one thing that Hillary Rodham Clinton isn't doing, one thing that all the celebrities in Hollywood aren't doing, and one thing that the former president, an entire president of the United States, didn't want to do either, and that's consider facts, statistics. Because that absolutely ruins a typical meme. Oh, hey, got time for more facts? I think I do. I got time for this. And now we're going to go into these a little bit in detail. This is from the Crime Prevention Research Center. Oh, BZ went in and started pulling out facts about guns, weapons, etc. Because Obama had the temerity to say, oh, the United States, we're so terrible, we're so backwards, we're so horrible. We should be exactly like Europe, right? Okay, updated. France had more casualties from mass public shootings in 2015 than the U.S. suffered during Obama's entire presidency. That statistic, 532, France, 527, the United States. Oh, that oppressive United States as compared to just one European country. Didn't Obama say, we are the only advanced country on earth that sees these kinds of mass shootings every few months? Yeah, he did. And he said, you don't see murder of this kind with the kind of frequency in any other advanced nation on earth. Yeah, he said that. Yet, despite the impression that Obama has been creating, France did statistically suffer more casualties, murders, and injuries from mass public shootings in 2015 than the U.S. suffered during the entire presidency of Barack Hussein Obama. These numbers don't adjust for the fact that the U.S. has 5 times the population of France. Proportion, rationality. You have to consider things in perspective. The per capita rate of casualties in France is thus 8.19 per million, and for the U.S. it is 1.65. France's per capita rate of casualties is thus 4.97 times higher than the rate in the U.S. Oh, but wait, do you think I'm going to stop there? Oh, no, you would be wrong if you thought I would. That's not going to happen. Here's another article I found from the Crime Prevention Research Center. Headline, updated, comparing death rates from mass public shootings and mass public violence in the U.S. and Europe. Let me go down here. In his address to the nation, after the Planned Parenthood attack, Obama claimed, I say this every time we've got one of these mass shootings. This just doesn't happen in other countries. Harry Reid, remember him? God love him. Don't miss him at all. He made a statement that said the United States is the only advanced country where this type of mass violence occurs. Let's do something. We can expand, for example, background checks. We should support not giving guns to people who are mentally ill and felons. Guess what? We don't. And there are laws against that. Whoa, there are laws. How did they get them anyway? Absolutely incredible. We prefer not to make purely cross-sectional comparisons, but this claim is simply not true. Those claims from Reid and Obama are not true. The data looks at the period of time from the beginning of the Obama administration in January 2009 to the end of 2015, mass public shootings, defined again as 4 or more people killed in a public place and not in the course of committing another crime. and not involving struggles over sovereignty, the focus on excluding shootings that do not involve other crimes, gang fights, robberies, etc., has been used from the original research and more recently by the FBI from 2009 to the Charleston massacre. The cases were compiled doing just a news search. Stop. Well, let's see. I got about 7 more minutes. What does BZ do when he writes an article? Because I don't have access to LexisNexis. That costs an arseload of money. And I don't have access to Grabian, for example, for all these great, wonderful audio cuts. So what do you think BZ does when he has a particular topic in which he's interested? He goes to his favorite search engine and pulls up an article. And he looks at that and the various links and goes to other articles. And he looks in those articles to various other links. And I do something even as silly as a fat, ancient reprobate like myself with a ridiculously shameful contract by the SHR media. I do research. I'm just a little winky blogger. I just have a little teeny spot on Twitter and a little winky spot on Facebook and a little winky blog and a little winky radio show. And I am unearthing and writing more factual shite about reality than almost all of the other American media maggots combined, including the New York Times, Post, Washington Post, Los Angeles Times, the biggies. Boston Globe, Atlanta Journal, blah, 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 blah. Leftist, leftist, leftist. They all have an agenda. Well, I guess I could say that I have an agenda too. At the top of my blog, it customarily says I am pushback. And the reason that I'm pushback is I'm here to make sure that you get both sides of the situation. You've already heard, you continuously are bombarded with the bullshit from the left in terms of this is what's really happening. And in the media, we're not even going to cite sources. Well, I heard about something that occurred here. We heard from an unnamed source that this was happening. Well, I don't have unnamed sources. All I have is the internet. Now, are you trying to tell me that these journalistas, leftist journalistas in all the newsrooms all across the fronted plain, apparently we're discovering that these newsrooms don't have access to the internet? Is that actually what's going on? They don't have access to the internet. How bizarre that's got to be. When you don't have access to the internet, and what's a mother to do? Got about 5 more minutes. And you know what? Since it's my Friday, I'm going to wrap things up. And before I wrap things up, one of the things that I'm going to say is this. I was terribly hoping that Sackhead Sean would call in. Because if nothing else, because of his condition, the fact that he's on vacation, and he told me that he has been knocking down drinks somewhat liberally. Damn, I wish he'd called in, because we talked about all sorts of theories about this shooter. And on Fox News, I happened to watch the Attorney General Laxalt for the state of Nevada proffer weasel words, weasel phrases again and again to the Fox News anchor about what's happening in this investigation. I can't put my finger specifically on it, but every day we find out more information which seems to conflict with each other. And again, I say, go to my Twitter account if you want to see some great videos, true videos of what's actually happening. And if we lose that, because one particular video that I put up there that's 18 minutes that Sackhead Sean made me aware of, that's already been erased from the internet twice now. So using Camtasia, I immured that video so nobody can take it away from me, and I have it in evidence. Go to my Twitter feed. Look at my timeline. Go to the Bloviating Zeppelin on Facebook. Look at my timeline. Look at some of the articles that are there. Listen to some of the videos. I can only draw a particular conclusion. Agencies are being extremely closed-mouth about this. Every homicide investigation has, and I did when I was in homicide, there were times when I would hold back stuff from my own supervisor because my own supervisor, who later became sheriff of the county, screwed me by revealing information in a homicide to the media because he had been the media representative before, the department's mouthpiece, and still had a great connection to the loving media, as he wanted to look good. So there were certain holdbacks that I would keep just to myself and my partner that we didn't release to anybody. And you know for a fact that there must be a ton, I'm surmising, of very serious holdbacks that these agencies are not going to release to anybody and don't want to. And the reason you're not hearing leaks, I'm theorizing, is this: that the consequences of having this information at this point in the investigation get out will be so destructive that this country may not be able to handle where the investigation is leading. So the big question will be, are these investigators truly following leads and let the evidence take them where they need to go? Or are politics involved? Because politics eventually, sooner or later, rules everything. But I can tell you, one of the reasons they're being so tight-lipped about this is because it's leading to one or perhaps more than one potential very destructive conclusions that this guy was involved in. And I submit to you right now, call me a tinfoil hat wearer, it's going to lead to our government itself. It's going to lead to illegal sales, or it's going to lead to outright terror. And at this point, the government doesn't want you to know about that, because then, and only then, would people be saying something similar to, oh my God, I knew this was happening, and I knew this was where it was going. Folks, you heard it here first.
Monsieur! Het wordt!
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, thanks for listening to the Bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon right here on the SHR Media Network. You want to contact me, you'll find me on Twitter at BZEP, on my blog at bloviatingzeppelin.net, on my Facebook at Bloviating Zeppelin, or you can send me an email at bz@shrmedia.com. My original intro music is by Possessed Tranquility. You can find them at reverbnation.com. Promotional consideration by Lockheed Martin, Skunk Works, and the Boeing Company. If it ain't Boeing, I ain't going. And also the wonderful people at Pratt & Whitney Engines who provide thrust you can trust. My tiaras are by My Little Pony. Thanks again to my personal KC-135 Kettle One refueling team, with who you can be guaranteed I'll be consorting in less than an hour. Thank you ever so much for listening live. Thank you for being involved in the chat room. Thanks for listening in podcast. God bless. Take care. Have a great weekend. Be safe.
Everybody quiet down now and get some sleep.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, Mama. Good night, Ben.
Good night, everyone. Good night, Mama. Good night, Daddy.
Good night, children. Good night, Daddy. Good night, Elizabeth.
Good night, John Boy. Good night, Jim Bob. Good night, Jim Bob.
Good night, Jim Bob.
What's going on? I was asleep. What's everybody doing?
Good
night, Jim Bob.
Good night, and good luck.